Hi guys, and welcome back to Macaroon. In this video, we're going to be doing some crazy squishy experiments by mixing all kinds of things into clear Hitohada gel. I ended up creating some pretty amazing squishies, and you can vote for your favorite on the app PopJam. This is an ad for PopJam, which is a safe and kid-friendly social media platform. Anyone can create a profile and get followers. My profile is Macaroon, and if you want to be friends, then just download PopJam and I'll also follow lots of you back. Once you're on my profile, simply click the poll here to vote for the best experiment. At the end of this video, you'll see the results of all 4 DIY dares, and you can decide which one you find most satisfying. I love PopJam because it's a safe place for my younger viewers to create a profile, follow their friends, make art, or take quizzes. It's especially fun if you love being creative, which I imagine most of my viewers do. PopJam is free to download from the App Store or Google Play, and I've linked it under this video. So I've always been curious to know what happens if you try mixing random stuff into Hitohada gel. The 4 things I want to test out are gold leaf, glitter, dried flowers, and color-changing pigment. I normally have problems getting plain Hitohada gel to set, so I felt that mixing stuff inside was bound to end up in an epic fail. However, to my surprise, almost every single clear squishy worked in this video, which opens up so much potential for making amazing DIYs. I'll be using these Octopus molds again, simply because I made so many of these last summer. I also have a seashell mold, and all the experiments done using this one are in a separate video linked below. To get started, we'll obviously need some clear Hitohada gel. The official guide is to mix equal amounts of both liquids together, however from experience I always need to use more hardener. So I tend to use 40% base resin and 60% hardener. You can see the 2 layers quite well here, and I'm going to mix them together thoroughly before adding the other things. So the first squishy experiment is gold leaf. I've only used these in slime before, and they tend to sink and turn coppery after a while, so I have no idea what's going to happen here. I do love the aesthetic of tiny flakes of gold mixed into this thick, clear gel. I'm also happy to see that the flakes stay suspended throughout the liquid instead of falling to the bottom. I had to readjust the flakes a bit after pouring it into the mold, but on the whole, this process was very straightforward. Next up, I'm going to try adding glitter. I found this black glitter a while ago, which is quite unusual, so I'm pretty excited to test it out. Then I'm adding some super fine iridescent glitter on top. A good tip for finding really nice glitter is to look on nail art websites. This one even comes in a squeezy bottle, which makes it easy to apply. Glitter mixes very well inside Hitohada gel, but I'm curious to see whether the particles will stay suspended after the squishy has cured. Experiment number 3 is going to be dried flowers. This is inspired by the flower jelly lipstick trend from a few years ago, and I still had one of these flowers left over. I'm simply going to stick this inside the gel and leave it to set. And for the final experiment, we've got color-changing pigment. Old school subscribers will recognize this from my fruit slime video here. This is a thermal pigment, which means it changes color with temperature. I find that the most effective way to use this pigment is to place it in the freezer and then warm it up using your hands. This produces some really impressive results. I'm just going to mix this through the gel and pour it into the mold. Now comes the waiting game, because clear Hitohada gel is very tricky to get right. However, after 3 days, I was amazed to see that all the squishies have actually set. I was almost certain that some of these would fail because I had such a hard time using powder pigment in my very first squishy video. But for some reason these have worked, so it's time to start demolding the gold leaf squishy. Clear squishies are quite fragile, so you have to be careful not to rip or fold these when taking them out of the mold. I'm really pleased with how this one turned out, and I can't wait to add the facial features. As always, I'm going to be using acrylic paint mixed with white glue. Just stir everything together and apply using a toothpick. Now our first squishy experiment is done, and I think we can agree that this one looks pretty unique. Don't forget that you can vote for each experiment on my PopJam page, so please let me know which one you find most satisfying. Next up is the glittery octopus. As you can see, all the glitter has indeed sunk to the bottom, but I actually like this effect better than having it spread throughout. The glitter forms a smooth dome on top of the squishy and makes it look like the octopus has a galaxy-inspired hairstyle. If you like this one best, then be sure to vote for glitter in my PopJam poll. Now comes experiment number 3, which is the dried flower squishy. I originally positioned the flower straight down, but unfortunately it shifted to the side during the drying process. However, the gel has cured nicely and the flower looks very well preserved. This squishy looks more subtle compared to the others, so I'm not sure how many of you will vote for it on PopJam. But I find that the more you look at it, the more it has a delicate aesthetic that grows on you. I love how the flower is slightly distorted by the shape of the octopus, so you can only see it clearly if you squish it towards certain angles. Last but not least, we have the color changing squishy. I placed this in the freezer before taking it out of the mold so you can see the color change on camera. Unfortunately, I left it inside a bit too long because freezing Hitohada Gel seems to affect the texture and makes it rip more easily. I accidentally ripped the top of the octopus when taking it out of the mold, and I'm sure this wouldn't have happened at room temperature. The cold also attracts condensation, which makes it harder for the paint to stick. So for best results, be sure to demold and paint the eyes on first before cooling the squishy. I was really happy that the pigments didn't affect the curing process because this squishy turned out really well. The color is starting to change from my table, which is warm because of my filming lamps. And of course, you get the same effect if you squish it with your finger. And of course, if you think this looks coolest out of all 4 squishies, then be sure to choose color changing on my PopJam poll. This effect is reversible as long as the squishy is cold, so you can play with it as often as you like. And so now we know that Hitohada Gel is compatible with all 4 of the things I tested. I can't wait to see which squishy experiment PopJammers vote for on my poll. I think the gold leaf squishy is going to get most votes, however my favorite is actually a different octopus. I'm curious to see how many people have the same favorite as me, and of course I'll reveal that on PopJam as well. I'm Joanna, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in my next video. Hello. Isabella's almost 6 months old. Now she's getting teeth, so she's a bit cranky and she's drooling all the time.